Entrepreneurship is extremely rewarding, but you need a lot of grit. Every day isn't sunshine and roses. You need to have a stronger push when the day-to-day really gets difficult.
Your current job might be showing you your next business opportunity. Pay attention to the problems you encounter repeatedly. They might be the market gap waiting for solutions. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Confident Alchemist podcast, where bold women take the brave leap to build businesses and lives that they deserve. I am Debbie, and today I'm sitting with someone who's built something that literally saves lives and transforms families. And it all started because she saw a gap that nobody else was filling. I'm here with Ilanie Kriel, the founder of Kriel Care. And the story is a proof that sometimes your greatest business opportunity is hiding in the problems that you encounter every single day at work. Ilanie spent 7.5 years as a social worker in a spinal and neuro rehabilitation center, helping patients and family navigate life after strokes, spinal cord injuries, and traumatic brain injuries. But she kept on running into the same problem. When it was time for patients to go home, there was this massive gap between expensive medical home nursing and informal domestic workers who weren't equipped to handle complex care needs. So she created the solution. Kriel Care provides functional companion care, not just passive medical nursing, but active support that helps people maintain dignity and quality of life in their own homes. And here is the kicker. She's built this into a business that's becoming a household name in the industry. Today, we're going to dive into how Ilanie identified this gap, made the leap from social worker to entrepreneurship, and build a business that's changing how we think about care in South Africa. Ilanie, I am ready to dive into your amazing journey. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm very excited to be here.
Ilanie, you are working as a social worker, during discharge planning. You kept on seeing the same problem over and over. Patients needed more than a domestic worker could provide, but less than full medical nursing. Walk me through how you first recognized that this wasn't just an occasional issue. This was a systemic gap in the market that someone needed to fill.
Yeah, so Debbie, I think social work found me firstly. That was never the dream. I wanted to study clinical psychology, but didn't just want to do a BA general, so I ended up doing a B social work. And social work was at the back end until I ended up at Mediclinic Mealmead, where we rehabilitated spinal and neurological patients. So a social worker in a rehabilitation setting is really the person that facilitates the whole patient journey.
Yes.
So I work with a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist, doctors, nurses, and I've got one job. And the one job is to secure a safe discharge for a patient who sustained a severe injury. So the patients that we rehab is someone that can't just resume life after coming out of hospital. Usually they're either wheelchair dependent or they're unable to speak. They're usually unable to return to work. So a stroke, a spinal cord injury, a brain injury really is a life-changing event for a patient, but also for the family, of course. So my main job was to prepare families emotionally, but also practically for taking this person home that was not the same again.
Yes.
So the only 3 options available was firstly, frail care. Fun fact about frail care, you can't place someone in a frail care under the age of 55.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so if you're 40 years old and you are in need of full-time care, frail care isn't going to work.
Sure.
Your second option is home nursing. So home nursing is very medically orientated. They look after medically complex patients. So that means their approach is really to passively nurse patients. They want to nurse and that's about it. And then the third option, just because patients' families couldn't either afford or it wasn't appropriate to place a patient in frail care, they couldn't afford home nursing. So the alternative was bring a domestic worker and we will train that person for 3 days in rehab. That is not sufficient for someone who sustained a very complex injury.
Exactly.
So I did my social work internship here in my 4th year at Mealmed, and in 2015 I identified the need, something between home nursing and a domestic worker.
Yes.
And we coined that as companion care.
Beautiful.
Okay. So the whole story started with a 40-year-old engineer working at Siemens, extremely high-functioning individual, who rode his motorcycle and he got into an accident. And he sustained a traumatic brain injury, went through the rehab process, and at the end of the process, he was able to walk, talk, do everything for himself, but cognitively, meaning his brain wasn't able to work the way it used to. So his short-term memory was severely affected. Okay. The implication thereof sending a person home like that alone is he could leave the stove on. He could forget to take his medication. He could get lost. So again, not a safe discharge. And that is where I had to step in. And his wife really battled to secure a discharge plan. So I had meeting after meeting after meeting discussing the different options. And at some stage, I just sat her down and I was like, what is the problem? Why can't we finalize discharge? Because again, the team is pressuring me to make sure we have a safe discharge. And she just said, look, my husband is 40 years old. He can't go to frail care. He's not medically unstable. He's able to do everything for himself. But a domestic worker will not be able to manage him at home and, very importantly, continue with the cognitive exercises. And I took the gap and I told her, look, what if we implement a trained care partner, but the approach is different? So the approach is let's facilitate activities of daily living, meaning let's work out a daily routine. When is breakfast? When are we going to take medication? But then specific slots for therapy.
Yes.
So Sophie was my first care partner that I implemented.
Beautiful.
And she did physio exercises with him. She did cognitive exercises. And the whole idea was that she assisted the wife also when the wife came home. The washing was done, the kitchen was clean, but her husband was also cared for.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's literally the start of Kriel Care. That's where it all started.
That is really amazing. You had a successful career in social work, 7.5 years. Working with multidisciplinary teams, making a real difference. That's not easy to walk away from. What was the moment that you decided to actually stop being frustrated by this gap and start filling it yourself? And how did you prepare yourself for this different kind of work?
So at the end of 2022, I had 50 employees and a full-time job. I held on to my social work job probably a lot longer than I should have, just because I had such a passion for it. But my passion for the aftercare outweighed my passion for working in a hospital. And at the end of 2022, I just made the decision to say I want to pivot completely into providing hope for people after discharge. And off I went into my own business.
That is beautiful. But looking back now, what was that moment when you decided I can't have 2 legs on both sides, and that you need to make the choice to actually just do the one that you are more passionate about?
To be honest, it was extremely difficult. So extremely difficult. Walking away from Mealmed was probably the most difficult thing that I've ever done. I worked with my team through COVID. We went through a lot together. So to walk away from that team was extremely difficult. But again, I believe I've got a mandate to help people afterwards. And that was the driving force. The driving force was I am called to be a voice of hope after discharge. So I just had to take the leap.
Kriel Care isn't just home nursing. You've created something called functional companion care. Break it down for us. What does that actually look like in practice? And how do you train caregivers to give this level of support while maintaining the dignity and quality of life you've talked about?
So dignity and quality of life, those are literally what we strive towards. So companion care, functional care, the only way I can really describe it is it's physical assistance that meets emotional support.
Beautiful.
So we remain from a management team extremely involved. So myself and we have another social worker, we walk a journey with the families to do progressive care plan management. So we don't just drop a caregiver and hope for the best. We implement a structured daily routine that optimizes the function of the patient. But then we go back, we reevaluate, we get input from the families, we get input from the patient, and together as a team, we actually proceed forward. So what companion functional care comes down to is we want the patient as independent as possible, even if that means with assistance.
Yeah.
So we facilitate activities of daily living more than passively caring for a patient.
And then how do you literally maintain that dignity of life that, I think we all would strive for? But, sometimes it's very humbling to actually ask for assistance and ask help because, we still want that quality of life.
Yeah, so that's very important. When a person loses independence, they go through a whole emotional grieving process firstly. So we come in and we meet the patient and family where they are firstly, because we understand they go through a loss. And emotionally, as much as we help and facilitate them physically, we also help and facilitate them emotionally.
Of course,
Right. And I believe our company culture is built around dignity and quality of life, so it trickles through. In everything we do, the question is, am I promoting dignity and quality of life?
that's beautiful.
So that's from management. We carry that through to our ground staff. That is something that we continuously strive towards, and we continuously talk about that to our caregivers, and we keep them accountable. So we also explain that to the families. This is the goal, so please give us feedback. If you don't experience that we can monitor that and set that right.
You've mentioned that Kriel Care is become to start a household name and that word of mouth is spreading. In the care industry, reputation is everything. How have you built the trust? And what does it feel like to see something that you created out of necessity become recognized as a solution people need?
So that's literally the thing that gets me out of bed every day. The other day, I went to a restaurant, overheard a conversation of a lady needing care, and me being me, I was like, should I? So I ended up approaching them and giving them a brochure. It ended up that the lady on the opposite side knew me and had already told the lady about Kriel Care, and that was absolutely heartwarming.
Yay.
So trust is the cornerstone in our industry 100%. The reason why we've established and continue to build trust is because we actually do what we say we're going to do. We show up when we say we're going to show up. We deliver our service with excellence, and we do what we say we're going to do. And that builds and maintains trust in our industry. And I train my staff manager to have a good relationship with our employees. We believe in relationship building. If there's a good relationship, we often get better results.
Yes.
So we monitor our care partners. There's a strong sense of accountability. We do home visits. They do daily reports. But again, it's about company culture. The way that we treat them is the way that they treat us back. And as a company, I am known as Sister Boss, not because I instituted that. It's almost like a nickname for me from my staff, and it's cross-board. Wherever I come, it's Sister Boss. And it's just, we have that type of relationship. We know we're all a team. We need one another to be able to do this.
You have big plan. A national footprint, Kriel Care in every major city. Assisted living facilities across provinces. You're not just building a business. You're trying to change how care works in South Africa. What is driving this bigger vision? And for entrepreneurs listening who have ideas that could create systemic change, what advice would you give about scaling something this ambitious?
You better have a passion for what you are busy with. You better have a conviction, because business is hard. Entrepreneurship is extremely rewarding, but you need a lot of grit. Every day isn't sunshine and roses. You need to have a stronger push when the day-to-day really gets difficult. The only way I see us maintaining or obtaining rather a national footprint is through collaboration.
Yes.
So I'm actually in the middle of negotiations with a couple of parties, and I believe with the right collaboration partners, we're going to be able to do it. So that's just something that I've learned in entrepreneurship as well. You can't go about it alone.
Yes.
You need confidence, you need collaboration partners, you need referral partners. People do business with people they know, like, and trust you. And that is probably the best advice that I can give a upcoming entrepreneur, someone considering it. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, and know your why. That is very important.
But, talking about you just mentioned like you have like over 100 employees. Making a national footprint is going to take much more time and energy from your side. How are you planning to maintaining a work-life balance through all of that?
So you've asked me about balance, Debbie, and I've mentioned to you balance in entrepreneurship sometimes is challenging. I think where I am now is we are becoming a lot more smart with the 24 hours that we have to work with. So we are strategizing systems and strategies that can do a lot of work for us, that we get to do the most important thing, and that is connect with people. That's it. And so systems, and the right strategy and the right people in the right positions will make it happen.
Ilanie, thank you for sharing this journey with us. Your story demonstrates something powerful, that the best business opportunities often come from the problems we encounter in our daily jobs. The gaps we see that everyone else just accepts as, how things are. Here's what strikes me about Ilanie's approach. She didn't start with a business idea and looked for a market. She started with a real problem affecting real people and built a solution. That's why Kriel Care is becoming a household name, because it solves something that desperately needed solving. 3 things stand out for me in this conversation. First, your current job might be showing you your next business opportunity. Pay attention to the problems you encounter repeatedly. They might be the market gap waiting for solutions. Secondly, transitioning from employee to entrepreneur doesn't mean abandoning everything you've learned. Ilanie's social working background is the foundation of everything Kriel Care does well. Thirdly, businesses that solve real problems for real people have staying power. Kriel Care isn't just growing because it's a good business model. It's growing because families genuinely need what they provide. If you are working in an industry where you keep on seeing the same problems all over and over again, start paying attention. Document those gaps. Talk to the people affected by these problems. Your next business might be hiding in your current frustration. Send me a message and tell me about a gap that you have noticed in your industry. What problems keep on showing up that nobody else seems to be solving effectively? Ilanie's story reminds us that entrepreneurship isn't always about disrupting industries. Sometimes it's about filling the spaces between existing solutions and something that actually works. So if Ilanie's story resonated today with you, please send me a message on my social media. And remember to join our Confident Alchemist podcast community, a free online space where bold women come together and sharing their triumphs and sometimes their losses. I hope you found Ilanie's story inspiring, because I did. And remember, sometimes your business idea can come from your frustrations. Go find that business gap. I see you next week for another dose of truth, boldness, and transformation.